This is Manannan's detestable pet.
The old wizard looks at you menacingly.
The kitchen is filthy. Go clean it at once.
You are not close enough. The cat just hisses at you. You are not. Nimbly, you grab the nasty cat by the scruff of its neck, avoiding its needle-sharp claws. And now that you have it, what are you going to do with it? You manage to pluck some fur before he viciously scratches and leaps from your arms. With grim satisfaction, you survey your wounds. You are not. Keep it to yourself. The cat. You are not.
You will not mistreat my pet!
Don't you know that Manannan values his cat more than he values you? You scrutinize the moose head carefully. While it is long past its grazing days, you feel sorry for the poor old thing.
The old wizard looks at you menacingly.
The kitchen is filthy. Go clean it at once.
Candles flicker from the wrought iron lamp. There are various bottles and bowls on the shelf. The large dining table is made of pine planking. Matching benches run its length on both sides. The table is big enough to seat at least 10 people, though you doubt it's accommodated more than a tenth of that. This is where Manannan eats his meals. You, of course, are not supposed to eat here. You eat in the kitchen. There is a pine table and benches large enough to seat at least 10 people, but the wizard has never had any guests for dinner. This is where Manannan would place his potted plants, if he had any, along with a smidgen less detest for anything that grows. You can see most of the countryside of Ludor from this vantage point. This is where There are 2 doorways here. One leads to the kitchen, the other to the entry hall. There's no dumbwaiter to bring the food in from the kitchen. That's your job. Even if you could get the window open, the wizard has bars over it. It's there for a reason, whatever it is. The moose head is securely fastened to the wall. You cannot remove it. Trying to remove the chandelier from the dining room will only upset Manannan. Pour the bottles in a bowl. Swirl and swallow it down whole. Let the contents slosh and roll. Feel the liquid warm your soul. As you're the designated chef and all-purpose manservant, there's no one in the kitchen to talk to. Scratching your teeth on the glass might only loosen some enamel. Small things entertain small minds, don't they? Don't bother. It's empty. It hasn't much to say, if, in fact, it ever did. Trying in vain to blow out the candle from the floor demonstrates your need to get out and about more. 100 bottles of wine on the wall. Your voice travels airily into the hall. Don't bother. You take a moment's respite at the table, then decide you haven't the time. A loaf of bread, freshly baked. You use the heavy oak table when you prepare food for the wizard. You're quite familiar with it. You see a chop of mutton, some fruit, and a loaf of bread lying on the table. There are pots, pans, and skillets hanging on the wall beside the fireplace. The barrels contain grain and other foodstuffs. The kitchen shelf holds many ingredients and implements for cooking. Your mixing bowl is lying on the shelf. It's just your old tin bucket. Nice view. Pity it's out there and you're not. Nice. Your muscles ache as you recall the long hours spent churning butter. Near the fireplace is a crude broom made of straw. Your trusty knife is hanging on the rack. Your wooden serving spoon is hanging on the rack. Fortunately, you're not low on butter. Why invent more work for yourself? The fireplace is not used during the summer. Mananan insists that you clean it regardless and frequently. The fireplace. There are drying herbs and spices hanging here. This is the kitchen of the wizard's house. Other than your own bedchamber, this is the only place in the house that you feel you can call your own. The wizard rarely enters the kitchen. On cold days, the fireplace is a cozy place to sit. As it is summer, the need for a fire and cooked food is diminished. You have no use for these particular herbs and spices. You take the loaf of bread and carry it with you. You can't use that item there. You don't feel like sitting down and taking a bite. Maybe later. A leftover piece of. You take the mutton chop and carry it with you. You take the fruit and carry it with you. Your mixing bowl. You retrieve the clay bowl from the kitchen shelf and take it with you. You take the carving knife from the iron rack and keep it with you. You take the wooden spoon from the iron rack and keep it with you. Many chores lie in wait upon those shelves. There's no fun to be had with these barrels. There's no hole in this bucket. Why bother with it? There's nothing under the table, and it's far too heavy to shift. Even if you could get the window open, the wizard has bars over it. Even if you... Your hands are grubby enough. No need to dirty them further by rubbing them on your clothes. If you had any flu powder, you'd be out of here in a second. You know from time spent here with a pot and a pan, when cooking for hours you get hot little hands. Best to shelve that idea. The wizard gives you an evil glare. You think of all that butter churning, churning, churning. Where's that bucket? There's no hole in this bucket. Be thankful it isn't mistletoe. It can't sweep your troubles away. Feeling ill? You lean over the barrels and laugh loudly into them. If the saying wasn't true before, it is now. As one who's not able to talk to a table, in ignorance it will remain of your fable. Don't fog up the view. Don't fog. You can't use that. You can't.